Nice to see you again. Well, I do like to share some thrifty tips with you and some thrifty ideas, and you can't get much more frugal, can you, than making something out of fabric that, in my case, that I bought from the charity shop. I go to the local charity shop, well, it's pretty close to me in Morlaix, and I buy offcuts of fabric, I buy old curtains, I buy duvet covers and pillowcases, and I make things from it. And this tutorial today is about how to make this three-pocketed bag. Let's have a look at it now. So it has 3 pockets, and I've lined it from a lovely old sheet that's the lining, and then you can see the back of it as well, and there's the front of it. And next I'm going to show you the pieces of fabric that I'm going to go through the fabric that we need to make this. Let's start with the outer pocket. You need to cut 1 piece, and that needs to be 19 inches by 23. Now the nice simple thing about this is the width of every piece of fabric, except for handles, is 23 inches. You'll then, with your outer pocket, just simply fold it over, press it, and here's what I've done earlier. And you'll press it and then top seam it, and that is ready to go. So that is the outer pocket. So repeat that again, that's 19 inches by 23. If you don't catch what I say, don't worry, all the measurements are below. Just pop that behind me. Then we have the outer body, and we need to cut 12 and a half inches by 23, and you will need 2 of those. Then we have the upper band. You'll see the upper band is taller than the lower band. The upper band is 5 and a half inches by 23. Again, you'll need 2. Lower band, 4 and a half by 23. Again, you'll need 2. Now this is the handles. Now the handles are 6 inches by 26. And this is how you get them to there. So you'll fold them in half and you'll iron them. You'll just fold it into the middle, iron it again, fold it over, iron it again, and you'll run it through the sewing machine and then run it through again the other side. So those are the handles. Then the lining. Now I've used here, so this obviously with the lining, we need right sides together with this. So there's the wrong side, there's the right side. Now I've got a lovely old piece of French vintage sheets off a bed from somewhere. So the lining is 21 inches by 23. And I'll show you what you're going to do with that. So we're going to sew round 3 sides. And then I'm going to fold it over at the top, as you can see here, by 2 inches. And then you will press the top. So you can see here on the lining, the right side is on the inside. You're then going to measure 4-inch squares at 2-inch squares, I do beg your pardon. And I use my ruler here. So you can see 2 inches by 2 inches. 2 inches by 2 inches. And you're going to need to mark those off. I'll now start showing you how to assemble my bag. The first thing I'm going to do, after I've folded my front pocket in half, I've top stitched it, I'm going to show you how I measured out 3 equal pockets. So this is 23 inches wide. So I'm allowing myself 1 inch either side. So I've got 21 inches. So every 7 inches I put my pin. So I've got 8 inches, 15 inches, and then 21 inches. And that's how I work that out. And I just sew from one pin down to the next. And that's what I'll do next. So there we are. Okay. So there we are. I have sewn my front pocket on. Now, when I did this the first time, I sewed it on the wrong way up. And this can happen. So let's make sure that we get the top band on the right place. Now I know my top band is wider than my lower band, taller than my lower band. I'm also going to make sure that my pattern on this is going the right way. Yep, so that's the same. So there's the top of my bag. And I'm going to do right sides together. Right sides together. And I'm going to put a few pins in that. Might be showing you this a bit slowly, but this is the difficult bit that people, when they're making something, just seem to do really quickly. And it's getting it right. Checking things like making sure that it overlaps either side. So that's the top band. Put the top band on the other one as well. So the top at the top, the bottom at the bottom. And again, make sure the fabric's going the right way. The top's at the top, the bottom's at the bottom. Make sure it's all overlapping properly. Don't leave yourself too short at one end. You're probably a much better sewer than me. You're probably doing that anyway. I can go a bit wrong, but I've got to check myself. Make sure your pins are going in the right direction. If your pins are on backwards, so I'm going to put it through the sewing machine that way. So the top, and there's the top. The band at the top is wider than the band at the bottom. So turn it round. You've got the pins going in the opposite direction. Make sure I've got, there we are, the pattern going the same way. And pin it again. So it's all ready to go through the machine. Make sure all the seams line up properly. So the top at the top, the bottom at the bottom, the top at the top, turn it round. One more piece. I'm going to check which direction I've got this going. Yep, that's okay for me. Let's turn it around so I can see what I'm doing. See, even I have to check. It's going that way. There we go. Now I've got it in place. Now I can pin it. So hold it together, turn it round. The top is at the top, the bottom is at the bottom. The top band is wider than the bottom band. Put in as many pins as you need. Oops, you see. Hello. Check that. Make sure it all fits either side. Let's do it again. Do it wrong. There we go. Ooh, ooh, ooh. This is how I check it. There we go. It's a little bit overlapping, but it's perfect. Make sure it's all in line at the top. Put as many pins in as you need. I only put a few in, but that's fine. And then I'm going to get it all through the sewing machine. So there it is. It's all pinned. The top is at the top, the bottom is at the bottom. Wide at the top, wide at the top, narrow at the bottom. So there it is. And next, I'll show you how I sew it through the sewing machine. So I'm just going to whiz this through the sewing machine. You go as slowly as you like or as quickly as you like. And here we go. I'm just going to show you one and I'll do the other one off camera. So let's get going. And put a locking stitch in at the end of either end. I'll just whiz it around, do the other side. Start with a locking stitch, end with a locking stitch. And end with a locking stitch. So just to show you now, I'll pull the pins out. Always put your pins somewhere they're not going to end up embedded in your foot. Yeah, it's happened to me. That has happened. Pin them away. And you can see the effect of when it opens. We have a top band, we have a bottom band, and the pockets all in the right place. And I shall sew the other bits up without you looking. Okay, so let's get on to the next stage. The top is sewn on, the pockets are all sewn in place, and the bottom is sewn on. And that's exactly the same. The bottom is sewn on, this is the back, and the top is the sewn on. But then what you're going to do is you're going to fold it over by 2 inches. And you're going to make sure you've got your tops and your bottoms all in the right place and match it all in. So there we are. That's what we call this right sides together. The bag is right sides together now. So that's all in place. And this is a good time to make sure everything is all the same size. You don't want one side of the bag bigger than the other side. And it's all matching. And it's all in place. Good thing to get a couple of pins in there. So you're going to sew down one side and around. So start on the right hand side. You can put in as many pins as you like. I don't put in many pins. And you're going to sew down the bottom end. So then turn it again. I've allowed a 1/2 inch seam allowance on this, which gives you loads of room for error. It's always better to have more seam allowance than less. And you can see here, it's not perfect, but once it's all sewn, you won't see that. And then again, you're going to go so down the next side, just making sure it's all folded over. Let's get my pins in. And my final pins down here. So make sure you sew the right side. You don't want to sew up the top of the bag, you want to sew up the bottom of the bag. You could have a check then, couldn't you? Because I have done this wrong before. Yep, there's the pockets in the right place. I have sewn it upside down before. So it's good to check that all the pockets are in the right place. Then it's good to check that your lining and your bag are pretty much the same size. So there's my lining with my corners already marked. Now I sew and cut the corners off later. So let's show you what I did here. So I've got a marker pen, any old felt tip pen will do. And I'm going to mark off my 2 inches in the corner. So 2 inches. Washable pen by 2 inches. Make that right. 2 inches by 2 inches. Well, I still sew all the way around and then I cut it off afterwards. So I'll just show you now how I sew that all the way around. Thank you. So I'm now going to sew my bag all the way around. I sew and then I cut my corners off afterwards. So let's just get this through the machine. I'm going to check this. In fact, I think I'm going to sew a little bit in a bit so I can see here. Right. That's why I allow myself a 1/2 inch seam. So here we go. I'm going to sew all the way around. I'm going to lock it. A locking stitch. And then sew all the way around. Sew off the edge, sew up this side, and then sew up the final side. I've checked, haven't I? I've made sure that I'm sewing the right end, not the wrong end. And I'm going to get to the end and I'm going to put in a few locking stitches. There we are. Locking stitched. So there we are, all sewn up, all round all 3 sides. Then I'm going to show you how we make the corners. Okay, so I'm now going to show you how I make the corners. So it creates a box at the bottom of the bag. I'm going to show you with the outside and the inside. I am then going to sew both of them at the same time. So I cut my corners off carefully. I cut slightly inside the line. Oh, I have messed these up in the past, but don't worry, because I use fabric from the charity shop. It's not that precious, but it is frustrating to get to this stage and make a silly mistake. So I'm going to show you now. If you see the bottom of the bag, and I'm going to kind of pull it open. So there's the seams. There it is there. And now the seams. Even I find this difficult. It's kind of like trying to get tights on for the first time when you've never worn them ever before. It's not that easy. So there we are. It goes from the corners, put the points to the points, and it makes a nice square. Now this you've just got to keep shifting it until you get it the way you want it. So you have one seam going one way and one seam going the other. It will lie flat. And if it doesn't, you can make it flat when you sew it. This is the only really tricky bit. Even I find this tricky. Do this without sticking a pin in your hand. There we go. It is pinned. I'm going to pin it again. You could use more pins than me. Nope, even I've got it wrong. Let's try it again. I'm showing you this because this is the tricky bit. I'm going to do it 4 times. Because the first time I ever did it, I thought, how the heck do I do that? And you can see the seams go one way, the seams go the other way. I also think it's quite good that I don't find this easy, because this is the bit of sewing, rather like I find difficult in dressmaking, where it gets 3-dimensional. I'm really good as a quilter at 2-dimensional sewing because it's all flat. This is where it gets 3-dimensional, and it's really not that easy. Another pin in that one. Okay, I always think it's best to get your lining. I've got some kink in that. It's good to check either sides. You can feel it's flat. You can feel it's flat. Do both of them and then take them to the sewing machine at the same time. So that one's flat. I'm checking I've got no kinks and lumps and bumps in this one. That one has. Bear with. Ah, I can feel it now. You can feel it's flat. Okay. So that's the bag. And I'll get right sides together. Now the lining, I'm going to do exactly the same. This is a bit easier because it's thinner fabric. Cut the corners into the squares. Don't worry about the dye of the ink. It washes out. It's always nice to give these bags a wash before you use them. Okay, seams, triangle, hold the corners, pull them out, together, out. These are a bit easier because this is thinner fabric. This time, there we go, 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. Flummoxes me, it really does. There we go. Pull out the corners. There we go. You can shufty this around when you actually get it to the sewing machine to get it to be flat. Here's the other side. Hold the corners, pull them out. Corners, pull them out. Try and emulate the seam you've got on the other side. So one running that way. That means this one flattens that way. This one flattens the other way. Oh, it is fiddly. It is fiddly diddly. It really is. There we go. We're there. We're there. Okay. That's then pinned. I've taken a while to show you this because when I first did this, oh, there was much consternation and upset and unhappiness, and I found it difficult. And as you can see, to a point, I still do. But there we are. And there we are, ready to sew. And next, I will take these to the sewing machine. So here we are. We now have the lining with the corner stitched. I've also put some zigzag stitching in to keep it in place. You do not want your lining coming undone. And you want the lining to be wrong sides out. And then we have the outside of the bag. Again, got my nice boxy flat bottom. And we're going to turn that right side out. Right side out. And hopefully, fingers crossed, yes, it's worked. Oh, it's worked. Oh, that's a relief, isn't it? The bag is taking shape now. There is the nice square bottom. Nice square bottoms. And now we've got the lovely tricky part of getting the lining inside and the handles pinned in place. I hate putting duvet covers on, and this is very duvet cover-ish. So you can see I've put my fingers into the square corner, and I'm going to get that into the square corner. And the other side, and there's usually much consternation, teeth gnashing, sometimes even tears doing this. There we go. It's in, it's in, it's in. So now I want this seam and that seam to line up, and this seam and that seam to line up. It's rather like getting a pillow in a pillowcase. It's all in. It's all in, it's all in, it's all in. Shifty it around, too happy with where it's to go. Keep poking it in, making sure it's all going in there. I'm not whizzing through this, I'm not doing this slowly, I'm actually showing you this is not easy. Some people make it look easy, well it's jolly well not. That side's in, that side's in. You can adjust it a bit more when you are sewing. Then as you can see, I've got my two handles. I've sewn up either sides of it. You want to make sure with your handles that you do not get them tangled. So have your bag away from you, and then the handles, if you line them up with the pockets, you're going to get them inside. You want all of that 2 inches inside, because you're going to do several lines of sewing round here to make sure that those handles are very securely in place. So try and pin at the bottom, because you're going to sew a top line in first. Hit the handles in first, so it's a good measuring guide. So look at your line of where your pockets are, and then you line them up to the 2 inches. Make sure you're only pinning one side of it. It's very easy to pin through all 4 layers at once. And get those handles on to begin with. Then you can pin in the direction you're going to sew. So I'm going to sew all the way down and all the way around. So I will finish pinning this and show you how I sew it next. So here we are, I've pinned it all the way around. I've made sure I've pinned through just one side of the bag, not all the way through. You can see what I'll do as I'm going around sewing is I will check for any creases like that, and I'll put it in. And I'm going to show you how to get it in the sewing machine. So I'm going to start at the pockets. I push the handles under the sewing machine. I'm going to do several layers of sewing on this. I'm just going to show you how I get that into the sewing machine. I'm going to make sure my handles are upright. I'll start just the other side of the handle, and I'm going to sew all the way around, and I've got 2 inches of seam there, so I'm going to sew every half an inch all the way around, and I'll show you that when I'm finished. And there we are, the finished bag. And as you could see, I put 4 line of stitching over the top. So it's really secure handles now. And my lining's all in nicely. My handles are all in. My pockets are the right way up, and I can use them. So there we are. It's not bad, is it, for a load of old material that I got from the charity shop. They make superb gifts for people. And they're lovely things to make for raffles at school or giveaways. People always want to raise money, aren't they? Just keep yourself. I love to have plenty of bags with pockets in. So thank you so much for watching my 3-pocket tote bag tutorial, and it's all lined, and how to put it all together and how to make the nice boxy corners. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you enjoy it. Please make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure that you come back again and subscribe. Watch lots of my other money saving and thrifty videos. You can follow everything I do on frugalqueen.com, where we blog as a family on what we do to save money here in Brittany in France. And you can also follow us on Frugal Queen in France on Facebook. It's been lovely getting all of this done today. That's another Christmas present I've got made. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.